Hello, welcome back. So last time we set up our add item modal component so that it opens and closes. Mine doesn't close, but yours should. And yeah, and we set up the use form hook also to control its input values. Now we need to handle form submission. And the pattern that we explain in the use form hook lesson is what we can use here. So the trick is the onSubmit handler needs to be a different function than the one we're going to handle the the input values with. So what it will look like is you will pass in a handler from app.jsx. You'll define another handle submit function, and then you'll call that handler that you passed as a prop and pass it the input values. That handler that you're passing as a prop, you'll define in app.jsx. And I would suggest start by just trying to get that in place and have the handler just log something to the console to make sure you've got it in place. All right, give it a try, then unpause the video. Okay, so here we are. First, we can create the handler. Handle add item submit. And it will accept the input values as an argument. What are these input values I speak of? Well, it's these. Remember, this is an object containing the value of each of our inputs, with the keys of the properties being the names of those inputs. So this is exactly what we need. And in fact, an object that looks like this, along with a link property, is what we would want to add to our default clothing items array. To our not to our default clothing items array, but rather to our clothing items array. So really, inside this function, we're just going to need to add the input values object to this array. But first, let's just get the wiring in place. As I suggested, I will just log something to the console, and I'm going to log the input values to the console. And we need to pass the handler to the component where we'll use it, which is going to be handle add item submit. And of course, we then need to destructure it. We want to follow the pattern that we see here. So we add a function like so. We can just pass, these were the input values of that component. Well, values are the input values of this component. We don't want to just log it to the console. We want to pass them to this function. So when we submit the form, we want this function to be called with these values, and that takes us back to here. Finally, we need to get these red squiggles to go away. Handle submit is declared, but its value is never read. What do we need to do with it? Well, we need to put it in, we need to use it in here. It's going to be our submit handler. So we need to pass it to where we want to use it. And it looks like we already have it set up as an onSubmit handler. So we could give this a try and see if it is working. And so, spoiler, it's not going to be working. I had to stop a video because it took me too long to figure out why. So here we can try it, and it is not working. Why is it not working? If we put a breakpoint in, we'll find that this function is never firing. And the solution is to move the submit button inside the form. A simple thing that I neglected to do, and it's just not going to work otherwise. So if we do that, now it logs to the console. We should also close it, close the modal. But of course, I don't have closing set up, so that will be a task for you. But you already have that code in place. It's just one quick thing you need to do to make that work. That's not where. This is where. Now on to making it actually do something, not just log something to the console. And what it needs to do is add a new object to this clothing items array. So there are various ways we could do this. The way that I would typically do it is, well, you have to use the set clothing items function. That's a given. And the easiest way here is probably just to put an object literal, then inside of it, input values, comma, dot, 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 clothing items. And what this just does is creates a new array. It has to be a new array with our input values object, name, link, weather. And then after that, it just unpacks all the existing elements into it. So it should appear as the first element. Now it's not going to look right at all unless I put the link element in there. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, so it appeared. We get this, each child in a list should have a unique key prop. You might remember what that is. Again, let's not worry about that now. We'll resolve that soon. But basically, this is pretty good. It's working. Just to make sure we have everything wired together, I think I will implement this last piece here, the final input. So basically all that we would need to do is change a bunch of places to say link instead of name, making sure we are changing the correct things. The type would need to be URL. The name needs to be link. The value needs to be values.link. And then if we go here and, well, I guess get an image of, let's say, a boot. Yeah, perfect. Copy link address, is that it? Okay. Copy link address. Not there. Paste that in here. We'll look at that in a moment. No, that's not the correct address, the correct URL. Apparently, I don't know how to get images on Vivaldi browser. Oh, it's got an entire other menu. So here, let's try it again. There we are, the boot appears. All right, so that's good. We were getting that error about, let's show it again. I'll show it again. Component is changing an uncontrolled input to be controlled. This is likely caused by the value changing from undefined to a defined value. Indeed, that is what is causing it, which should not happen. And then decide between using controlled or uncontrolled input element for the lifetime of the component. Well, our decision is to use a controlled component, but the problem is it's not controlled throughout the entire life cycle. And being controlled means its value is being tracked by a piece of React state. And that is the case with the name field and the weather field, because since the very beginning, as soon as it initializes, it's initialized to something that is tied to our React state. But the link values.link begins as undefined. It doesn't have a defined value. So these are all like these have defined values. So basically, we just need to add a default value for our link element to make sure it is defined all the way through the life cycle of the component. And then we can just put that in. We still get this error. Again, don't worry about it. But that is it for now. So in the next video, let's take stock and see where we are at. We'll move on from the form, although we will revisit that handler. So there's a task about resetting the forms, and there's a hint about it. So I'm not going to cover that. Let's go back here, and I will put a to-do implement reset. We're going to move on to, let's see, there's functionality to delete cards. There's also setting up the mock server. We're going to skip over deletion and we're going to move on to the mock server next.